Maya is my youngest daughter. She is biracial. What do I say when she comes home in tears and asks me, why don't people like me because of the color of my skin? I can usually come up with answers to most of her other baby adult questions, but not this one. See, I'm constantly trying to figure things out, which is actually a fabulous requirement of being a graphic designer. Graphic design is the process of problem solving and visual storytelling, using strategy, collaboration, ideas, words, and images. My job is to transform those images into components that inspire, connect, and improve understanding. So what does all of this have to do with what I was just talking about? Well, I approach most everything I do using what I know best, and that's the design thinking process, which starts with defining the problem. In this case, racism. Remember the summer of 2016? The constant barrage of violence by police against people of color made my heart hurt and my frustrations rise. My breaking point was having the talk again with Maya. And no, not that talk, the one that popped up into most of the white people's heads in the audience. What I'm referring to is the tough conversation people of color must have with their children about how to interact with the police if they ever got pulled over, to make sure they come home alive. But I didn't just want to have the talk, and I didn't just want to discuss the problem while feeling helpless to actually do anything about it. I wanted to do something to make a change. I knew I couldn't solve all the issues that came to a head that summer, but I knew I could use my design skills to address things differently. I just didn't know how. Next in the process is research and collaboration. That's all about immersion into the project and understanding the challenge. Learning new things is one of my favorite parts of being a designer. So when I discovered a trade email about a woman who started a nonprofit to address racism, my research began. As it turned out, Antoinette Carroll's organization, Creative Reaction Lab, is dedicated to developing lasting social and civic change through problem solving. By pairing businesses, social and civic leaders, local community leaders, and experts with designers. I wanted to figure out how to bring something like that here. Coincidentally, she was also holding a design and diversity conference in a few days. I dropped everything and headed there. At that conference, I saw example after example on how design thinking could be used to transform our neighborhoods, our communities, and most importantly, the human experience for the better. Through creative problem solving, diversity and inclusion, and social innovation, designers and community members could also take on global issues like human rights. And then I learned that AIGA, a professional organization for creatives that I have belonged to for more than 20 years, had just established a diversity and inclusion initiative led by no other than, guess who, Antoinette. You see, my profession is still over 90% Caucasian, and most of the leadership positions are held by men. And locally, you don't even want to know. So with that directive, diversity and inclusion board positions were being established for each chapter across the country. Who knew? Well, now that I did, I had my idea and a platform to implement change right here for my community, my profession, and most importantly, for my daughter. My new purpose was evolving in real time, and it just kept getting better. I immediately applied, and after a detailed interview process, I became the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for AIGA Nebraska. Now what? Well, getting things started meant many discussions with nonprofit and community members, activists and business owners about the challenges we face and how we could solve them. There were also countless conversations with members of the creative community on what diversity and inclusion meant to them, their firms, and what change could look like. Okay, now we're at the design stage. This is where we get to create solutions. There are times to listen and learn, and there are times to take action. Developing the programming that would support all the research and collaboration we just completed, that was our goal. This is how the plan came to life. We brought in national thought leaders in design and diversity and inclusion to talk about their experiences. We hosted workshops that partnered designers with the community to problem solve some of our city's greatest challenges. We started a summer program that introduced underserved and middle school students to the vast array of creative careers. And to top it all off, one of my very favorites, we partnered with a public library to host the very first citywide human library, where participants literally check out volunteers who act as human books for honest conversations that challenge prejudice and bias, helping people form a better understanding of each other. And that was just year one. Year two was twice as good, with a series of bias-busting events as we ate our way across the city at locally owned restaurants, and getting to the heart of bias by learning why and how we make the choices we do in order to make changes in our behavior. And lastly, we're at the evaluation stage. This is where we get to take an honest look at the project, what worked and what we could improve upon. I knew design could solve design challenges, but now I knew this process could solve, well, any problem, including ones that are larger than yourself. Here's what you need to remember. Define what the problem is, do your research, come up with ideas and implement the ones that you think will work the best, then review what you did, making tweaks as you need to. You see, design really does have the power to connect, inspire, and change the status quo. We each need to embrace discomfort, especially important for all us white people, and challenge our personal bias because we all have them. You see, diversity and inclusion isn't a quota system. It's not a special program or event. It's a belief system that needs to be practiced and fine-tuned every single day. And one of the easiest lessons, yet so hard to put into practice these days, we need to listen more and talk less. It is truly transformational. As for Maya, well, we've gotten closer. And all the language and knowledge that I have gained has helped me help her as she navigates this imperfect world. We have this mantra that I've asked her to repeat ever since she could talk. What are you going to be when you grow up? And she would answer, a strong Black woman. And I can proudly say that's exactly who she's becoming. Maya participated in the last human library, sharing her story about being adopted. And in her senior year in college, she is the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion for her chapter of the Public Relations Student Society of America. As my favorite president said as he left office, Barack Obama, show up, dive in, and stay at it. There's plenty of room here. Join us.